Okay.
Okay, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Dr. B's Thursday Thoughts. This week, I am ending a 3-week segment on choosing your options after graduating from high school. So we did a segment on choosing your college major for those young people going to college. Then last week, we did a segment on Votech Schools, had a wonderful young lady who just finished culinary arts school. And this week we are doing a segment on choosing the military. And I am very pleased to have two very distinguished guests with us who were both military recruiters, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. But first of all, as I always do, Dr. B's Thursday Thoughts is recorded and it will be uploaded to social media websites. So I just need a thumbs up that that is okay with you.
I'm okay with it.
All right, thank you very much. So, Anita, we'll begin with you. If you can introduce yourself, please, and give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. My name is Sergeant First Class Anita McLendon, retired. I retired with 25 years in service from the Army Reserve. I'm native of New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm a graduate of Dillard University, and I also am a graduate of Tulane University. And I currently work at Tulane University inside of the Army ROTC department, recruiting and maintaining the Army budget.
Thank you very much. And Wesley?
My name is Wes Alexander. I'm a retired Master Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, 26 years of active duty. I recently retired less than 30 days ago from active duty. I'm from Fort Pierce, Florida, and I have an associate's degree from Columbia State Southern University out of Alabama, and I'm currently working on a bachelor's. So, it's still in the process for me, but that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. So before we actually get into just the whole recruiting process, I really want to hear your story. What personally drew you to the military? Anita, we'll begin with you.
Sure. My decision to join the military was really simple. I come from a pretty large family. I'm number 4 of 6 children, and I really wanted to attend college. That was my main reason for joining the military. When I graduated high school back in 1989, my parents were both working. They had just, purchased a home. They had purchased a car for my oldest brother. They had just finished paying for my sister to attend college, but still had student loans. I had 2 smaller brothers, so I knew money was definitely going to be an issue, and things were really tight, but I knew I wanted to attend college. So back then, we would have different recruiters that would come to the high school and just kind of pass out flyers, give presentations about the military. And so I thought to myself, well, maybe that's an option for me, because as you knew back then, it was all about the military GI Bill. And they often, both how they would pay all of their tuition. And I thought, well, maybe that was an option. And then on top of that, I remember over the years listening to my dad talk about how his father was in the military, how his uncle was there, and they were looked upon so proudly throughout the family, and they did so much of traveling. So I said, well, look, maybe this is an option for me. So the very last visit before I graduated high school, when a recruiter came by, I literally got her card and I took her name and I went to the office and I sat down and spoke with her, and the rest is history.
Nice, nice. So why particularly the Army for you?
Basically because my dad had talked so much about his dad and his uncle being in the Army, so I didn't know too much about the other branches, only what I had heard from my dad about the Army. So that was simply why I chose the Army, because I was familiar with it.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Wesley, what about you?
Well, I chose the military. I always wanted to be in the military, but it took me a few years before I decided to say, hey, I was going to do this. And I chose the Marine Corps. My wrestling coach was a Marine, and he also was an educator. And just his professionalism and the way he carried himself, and the stern, fair type of individual that he was. And you know, the sky was the limit. You know, once I joined, I had, of course, the GI Bill. I had all the educational benefits, just like every other branch. It was tougher, and you know, I got a lot out of it.
Okay. All right, and that actually leads me to my next question. So we'll continue with you, Wesley. What if you could talk about some of the invaluable experiences you had in the military, probably that you would not have gotten had you not gone into the military?
What I'll say is there's a few things that are very invaluable. The professionalism, the leadership, the management skills that you learn within the Marine Corps. And you learn it early on. In the Marine Corps, you know, you're put in charge. It could be 5 people or 10 people of the same rank. Whoever came in first is probably going to be the guy that's going to be in charge. And we just start grooming individuals at a very young age, doing that and being a leader. You know, taking charge, taking responsibility, a person that can answer up for the team. And that's one of those important things that I got from it. And it allowed me to experience other cultures and other places. So, you know, it really opened my eyes to, it's not just about Fort Pierce, but there's more to the world than just where you come from.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Anita, what about you?
Well, the one thing that I want to say that I received from the military more than anything else, and I would not have had the opportunity, was the true leadership. When I first joined the military, I was pretty shy, pretty quiet, you know, inside of my comfort zone. But the military pretty much forced me into the front leader position, the leadership role. One of my very first military classes, I was assigned to be a platoon sergeant. And anyone who's familiar with the military knows that's simply the person out front in charge. A platoon consists of 60 people, and that means you're in charge of 59 people. So when I first started attending military schools, everyone had a chance to share the role as platoon sergeant. And it was at that time that I realized, listen, if you want people to follow you, if you want people to take you serious, you have to take your leadership serious. And so I did. I did my best to study and prepare for each training day. I read the manuals that we were assigned, and I did my best to not only be a leader, but to be fair, to be firm, but to listen to my soldiers as well. You know, being a good leader is also being a good listener. It's not about shining and being totally upfront and seen. It's about being a good listener as well. So I believe that is the one thing I gained from the military, that most likely had I not joined the military or just chosen a different profession, I may not have gotten the opportunity to stand out front and truly lead. So
Okay.
I think that's my biggest quality that I received.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So on that note, to the two of you, what made you want to actually get into recruiting other young people to join the military?
Well, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and answer that. The one thing that really made me wanted to go out and share this information with young people, when I was in the military, Latricia, I had the opportunity to visit places I never dreamed of visiting. Places that I knew, honestly, if I had to pay for on my own, I would not have been able to afford. I've been to Egypt twice. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. I've been to lots of stateside places such as, you know, Fort Hood, El Paso, Texas, Fort Stewart, lots of different military bases in lots of different states. So I've seen a lot of wonderful places. And, you know, and I often thought to myself, you know, I wish that the kids where I grew up and the kids in my neighborhood could see the same things that I was able to see. Because like Wesley said earlier, we have to realize the life is just not the neighborhood, the state you come from. There's so much more that this world has to offer. So that was one of the main reasons I decided to start the whole recruiting process, so I could share this information with other young people and give them the same opportunity that was afforded to me. And sometimes if you can share a personal experience with people, they can adjust and they can receive it a little bit better, because it's not just something off of a pamphlet. It's something that you're sharing with them from your own personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think Wesley had a little technical difficulty. I'm just letting him back in. Um,
Not sure what happened, but I'm sorry, I'm back.
okay, no, that's fine. Anita was just finishing up. So the question was, what made you want to become a recruiter?
Because I wanted to give young men and young women the same opportunity that I had as a young individual. You know, there's a lot of things that we're competing against: college, the workforce, the military, you know, vocational school, trade school. So I wanted to give them that opportunity to say, hey, this is what I had. I'm going to share with you all the experiences that I've had and let you make that sound decision off of the information that I'm providing to you. It's just giving them the opportunity to do something a little different. It may be tough, but it will make you better over time.
Okay, yeah. And then, so what is that process like? Now, Anita, I actually feel awful asking this question because for years, I have seen you come to prep, set up your table, giving out your information, but really after that, like, I have no idea what goes into recruiting someone for the military, or if like anybody even like signed up for an interest card, or what next steps are. So if y'all could talk about like what are the processes, you know, almost from like beginning to end, and is it different per branch, like Army and Marines? What is that process like?
Sure. Well, the process is really simple. What we did on the Army side, like I said, I worked with the Army ROTC department. So even though I'm in a recruiting position, mine is geared strictly towards college. Our main goal is to bring in young people into different universities. So the process for me is pretty simple. It starts with classes. You know, what we do is they give us a list of classes and they tell us the different talking points that we need to address, things that would catch the attention of young people, but most certainly catch the attention of college students. As we all know, it's very expensive to go to college. So one of our main selling points, of course, is the GI Bill, the different incentives that they give you, like certain majors and certain academic fields, they pay more money, like students who are geared towards engineering, the sciences and maths. Those are the people they're really looking forward to. Also nursing students, there's always types of bonuses and incentives, because as we all know, there's some careers that are needed just a little bit more than others. So the first thing for our process is to do the talking points. We try to target the arena that we're looking for, basically, you know, the science, math, engineers, nursing. Secondly, when we go in, we want to talk to students on their level. We want to meet them where they are. We don't want to talk about something like military history or wars and civil. That's not going to grab their attention. We want to focus on what they do, what they're interested in, and what's happening in their society right now. So a lot of the things that I talk about are the different internet opportunities. As you know, pretty much everything in school now is geared towards computers and the internet. So I share with them the different websites that we have, that if they're even interested, or they just have questions, they can check out the different websites. The military has put a lot of money into telecommunications and marketing, you know, just public affairs, trying to grab a certain audience. So for my field, ROTC, we strictly go after colleges. As I mentioned, I work at Tulane University. So right now, Tulane serves as the host school for the Army ROTC program. So when we recruit, we focus on 7 different schools. We have 7 schools that fall under our partnership, and those schools are Tulane University, Loyola, Xavier, Dillard, Our Lady of Holy Cross, LSU Science and Medicine. So what we actually do is we make it a point to reach out to those universities and try to schedule as many on-campus visits, face-to-face, one-on-one student interaction. So as far as the recruiting processes, we try to, focus on things that students are attracted to, such as money packages, tuition incentives, opportunities to get book stipends. Those things are important to college students. So we just focus on the needs of the average college student.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. A lot of that I did not know. Thank you. Wesley?
Yes, so the qualifications, right? That was your question, correct? Can you hear me?
The process that you use to recruiting.
The process that we use for us in the Marine Corps recruiting, they take an ASVAB test just like everyone else, and one we see if they're mentally qualified. Right. Also, we need to know if they're physically, having physical disabilities, because there's some things that you can't join the military and have a disability, and it's just one of those things. You're not capable to pull yourself over a wall. We're not going to set an individual up for failure. So you have to be, again, like I said, mentally qualified, physically qualified, be able to pass a medical examination, and we sit down with you, what your goal is, what do you want to be, what do you want to do, what's your end state? Is it the military? And sometimes we discover that it's not the military that they're looking for, but we find out what that individual's ultimate goal is. Just like the Army, we have bonuses, just like every other branch. We have the bonuses for colleges, for certain jobs, a little more money.
Okay, I'm gonna go into Wood and Wesley started to talk about this a little bit. Qualifications that someone would need. I think he was saying like someone with disabilities wouldn't be able to join. So like, what about for the Army? Like, are there any particular qualifications someone would need to join?
Yes, pretty much what Wesley said. Yes,
Oh.
we do look for students who are physically fit. Every student or every civilian that is interested in military, they do have to take our ASVAB exam, which is basically a skills level test to see where they would fall, and what job would best be suited for them. Of course, there's physical requirements. You would have to weigh a certain amount. Unfortunately, it's not a bias, but as Wesley said, if a person is not physically fit, or unfortunately, if they're overweight, there's certain activities you simply will not be able to do. So you definitely have to pass a physical fitness test, which includes running, sit-ups, push-ups, and of course, you have to be a certain weight and height average. You also have to pass, along with the physical fitness test, you have to be able to do certain things like pass the hearing exam. Unfortunately, not a lot of medical conditions will disqualify you, but there are a few. People who have bad eyes or have different cardiac conditions, they can't join the military. People who suffer from asthma or different type of allergies that are pretty severe, unfortunately, they would not qualify. So there's not a lot that would disqualify you, but I think now with things being as serious as they are and the different threats from different countries, they are getting a little bit tougher with the qualifications. So they do expect you to pass the physical 100%, in order to enroll and join the military.
Okay. Anything in terms of like academic record or, like conduct record, any of that plays a factor?
Yes, that's a very good question. As far as academic, as I mentioned earlier, I gear towards a lot of college students. So most of my recruits are coming directly from high school. So as long as they have a passing average, and of course they have to have a passing average just to graduate. So most of the times, once we get to them, they're pretty qualified on our level. And of course, if they're enrolled in a college, that's even better. But as far as civilian convictions, like they will not allow you to join the military if you have any type of criminal or civil convictions against you, anything such as, you know, certain arrests, a bad, criminal record, things like that can be a deterrent, and they will not allow you to enroll or join the military.
Okay.
But you know that, like with anything in life, sometimes you can receive a waiver, but it's really up to the military to make that decision, and a recruiter would have to work directly with you because some things can be overturned and thrown out, but it just depends on what it is.
Okay. Okay. And Wesley, are you back with us? Can you hear us?
I'm back with you. Yes, I can
Okay,
hear you.
great. And I don't know if this is different per branch, but Wesley, we'll start with you. Tell us what basic training is like. So for civilians like me, all we have to go by are the movies that we see, and it looks pretty tough on the movies. So what is basic training really like?
Basic training in the Marine Corps is 13 weeks of one, you basically being broken down, and not broken down in a bad way, but broken down to a point where you're starting to be built back up and molded into what we need and what you can be. You go through the rifle range training. You're also tested your knowledge wise with different things within the Marine Corps boot camp, such as the medical side of the house. You learn how to read maps. There's a lot of things that you learn as a basic Marine, how to survival. They teach you that. You learn Marine Corps martial arts. You learn hand-to-hand combat. So there's a lot of things you learn, and it's not just the hand-to-hand combat or shooting a rifle. They're teaching you also how to lead and how to follow. So it's 13 weeks, and educators, believe it or not, the Marine Corps has a program where educators from around the world, we bring them in to Parris Island, and we bring them in to San Diego and give them a dose of what the Marine Corps is giving the students that are coming from their schools. And you'll be amazed of how these educators go back and they actually become like recruiters within the school because they see what we have and they see what we bring to the table that will change an individual. Because a lot of the educators see that, hey, this kid will do better here because they're with them for 4 years.
Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. All right, Anita. Well, what about in the Army?
Yeah, I mean, Wesley gave an excellent answer. Basic training is a little bit different in the Army. Basic training in the Army is only 8 weeks, but it is the longest, hardest 8 weeks of your life. As for myself, I was a young female joining the military. I came from an all-girls school, as you know, Latricia, and I came from an environment where people hugged us and they kissed us and they told us how great we were. But when I got to basic training, I had the shock of my life. Just like Wesley said, they tear you all the way down, but only to build you back up. I learned in basic training that I could do things I never thought I could. I learned confidence in my own self. I learned how to do things for my own self. Just as he mentioned, we had basic marksmanship skills. We had to fire, a rifle. We had to learn to run, to jump, to crawl, to climb walls. We threw grenades. It was just things I had never ever experienced in my life and never thought I would ever do. But to my surprise, I did it and I did it well. But the one thing that I learned, and I think the main focus that they tried to instill in us inside of basic training was you have to learn to work as a team. If you can't depend on your buddy and your buddy can't depend on you, you will not make it. It's truly a team effort, and you're only as strong as your weakest team member. So we learned to build each other up as well. It was a lot of tough love, a lot of in your face, but we got through it. But after it was all said and done, I had pretty tough, but you have a true appreciation for the entire process once it's over.
Okay, so the movies are pretty accurate.
Oh yes.
Okay, okay. So this next question is really important to me because speaking of movies and TV and, you know, just what like we say in our communities, I feel like sometimes people say like if a child is like has been having trouble in school or has been having trouble at home, like, and even like some movies have shown that, like, you know, that child needs to go to the military. People really don't see, just like there are, I should say, there are people that are not aware of all of the advantages that actually going into the military hold, like the job training schools that the military offers. Like you go into the military and you actually come out with a skill. You know, depending on like what field you want to go in. So if y'all could talk about a little bit about that, just like the specificity that you can get out of actually going into the military.
Maybe you can go first.
Sure. I hear that a lot. I heard it before. I even joined the military. Like, yeah, we're going to make them a better person. They need to go into the military. I think what people meant by that was they wanted that person or that young person to receive the discipline that the military offers. One thing about it, no matter what branch it is, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, you will receive discipline. And we strive off of discipline. It helps everything to work together systematically. You cannot succeed if you don't have a system and if you don't honor that system by doing the right thing. So the most important thing that I think people get and perceive of the military is that we're very disciplined. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's people in the military who don't succeed sometimes because they don't take the discipline serious, and it causes them to mess up, and they mess up on a level to where it can cause them to be kicked out of the military. But for young people going in, I think it's excellent because it does give them that, because sometimes we don't get that at home. You don't always know what situation a young person is coming from. They could come from a home where there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of love and discipline. Or they can come from a home where that's lacking parental guidance, and it could be pretty much raising themselves. So a lot of times it does have a lot to do with the individual. But once you get inside of that military setting and you have the drill sergeants and you have the senior NCOs and enlisted soldiers and you have the officers that guide you down that path, you pretty much figure, okay, this is something that either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So the discipline that you receive is top notch, and it does help make you a better person. But it also matters who you are and what mindset you have when joining the military.
Yeah, yeah. And then what are some of the job training schools or programs that a young person can get into once joining the military?
So within the Marine Corps, we pretty much have everything with the exception of the medical field. We do not have the medical field. That's something that we get our medical part taken care of by whatever branch. Navy is normally with us, but if I'm on an Army base, I'll get my medical taken care of by the Army. If I'm on an Air Force base, the Air Force will take care of it. And of course, if we're on a Marine Corps base, we have the Navy right there with us to take care of it. So you get everything, and at the end of the day, this is what it boils down to when it comes to job and job training. That ASVAB test that we talked about earlier, it depends on what you scored on that. It also depends on the needs of the service.
Yeah.
A lot of us are told, a lot of kids have been told, well, you get to pick everything you want. Yeah, to a certain extent you do. However, it's whatever you score, because I can't give you something that you didn't qualify for. I can't give you an engineering job if you didn't qualify for an engineering job. We have to look at what you qualified for. And in the Marine Corps, we'll give you 3 things that you can pick for them. And what it boils down to is the needs of the Marine Corps. And at the end of the day, that discipline piece, that pride of belonging, that all starts to play in at that point. And when you sit down and you get kneecap to kneecap with these individuals, right, you're going to talk to them about the things that their goals, their ultimate goal, and that's going to tie into those jobs that they're looking for. And you, as that recruiter, will guide them in the right direction of picking that job. Because believe it or not, as a recruiter, you're like a human resource manager.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it all. You're trying to get in, you're like a guidance counselor. You're trying to guide this individual in the right direction for the best thing for them and the organization that they're being a part of. And it's a twofold thing. It's them and the organization. So you both have to get something out of it. So, you know, you do get to pick your job. And again, I mean, we have jobs from cooks that are culinary arts to music. They play in the band, to mechanics. We have it at water purifiers. We have NBC guys. So many different jobs. It just depends on what you qualify for to know what the school, the training that you're going to get at that military school. And also it depends on if your schooling is a year long. If your schooling is a year long, your contract will be longer, because we have to get our time out of you, because we're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in these young individuals joining our branches.
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually leads to my next question. So when someone signs up, what's the length of service? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm asking the question right. So, what's the length of service that they have to stay in?
So that's a very good question. And here's what I'll tell you is most individuals join right off the bat, whether you're on the reserve side of the house or active duty side of the house, it's going to be an 8-year contract.
Correct.
Most of the time.
Wow. Okay.
And what happens is some of them go 4 years active, 4 years inactive, or they may go 5 or 6 years active because their schooling is so long that they're going to go, 2 years inactive. So really it's an 8-year commitment. That's really what you're doing. It's an 8-year commitment, and that the remaining years, if you're not on active duty, you're in an inactive ready reserves, or you just join the reserves. So you're still a part of it, meaning they can technically call you back within that time frame if they really needed you.
Okay. Wow.
Correct. I agree with Wesley. That's pretty much the exact same thing for the Army. You can go anywhere from 4 to 8 years. 4 years being active duty service, 8 years being active reserve status, but our contracts pretty much run the same, anywhere from 4 to 8 years.
Okay. Wow. And then we're coming to an end. Just a couple of more questions. I wanted to know from your recruits, is there a success story that you would like to share?
For me, I have several of them. One, the word is thank you. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I can do it. Just like Anita said, these kids come back saying, hey, I didn't believe in myself, but you gave me the opportunity. You were the gatekeeper to allow me to be a part of your branch. And you allowed me to take that opportunity to be a part of that. And, a lot of parents don't support their kids in the military, but once they see that individual come back and walk across that parade day, they're like, wow, that's my child. Yes, that's your child. We just tighten up what you already taught them. That's it. The success story is every time a parent says thank you, or one of the individuals that I put in come back, they're getting promoted, they're doing good, and they're saying, hey, you know what? It's because of you that I'm here. It's because you believe in yourself and your ability that you're where you're at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Anita, what about you?
That's so true what Wesley said. I have lots of students and recruits that come back and say thank you, and it means everything. But I have one person in mind. When I first started at Tulane University, we had a young man, and I'm certain he won't mind me saying his name, but his name was Andreas Hatch. He was a young student at Tulane. And I picked this particular kid because when I tell you he didn't have a care in the world, he wore Bermuda shorts to class every day and flip-flops. And I think the biggest problem we had with him at the time is just putting on a uniform, because he always wanted to wear those shorts. And he was a good kid, never had a problem. He just was so carefree. And after 4 years in the program, he graduated, he got his commission, and he became a second lieutenant. Well, fast forward a little bit, he did his time in the military, he completed his contract, but right towards the end of his career, he came back to work at Tulane as a captain. And when I tell you, he was one of the best staff members we've ever seen. And I was so proud to tell everyone in the office that I knew this kid before he ever was a captain, before he was a lieutenant. I knew him from the very beginning. And to watch him go from this carefree kid just sitting on the grass at Tulane looking up at the sky to being this serious commissioned officer, following the rules, being a true leader, it just did my heart all the good in the world, because like he always told me, Miss Anita, I remember everything you told me. I kept it in the back of my mind. I didn't forget. I listened to my soldiers. And that just made me feel like I made a difference in his life and maybe a few other people. So yeah, there's a lot of good stories. A lot of people do take the time to come back and say thank you. But it's always that one or two that kind of stand out in the back of your mind and you never forget them.
Okay, wow. Wow, that is so great. And to wrap up, any final words of advice to a young person who may be considering going into the military?
Yes. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. Because that is one of the biggest things that will disqualify you from being a part of the military. Two, get your lesson in school. That's also going to help you. That's going to help you take that test and pass it. Three, have goals. Have goals. Pick some goals and make some smaller goals to reach the bigger goals.
Yes.
I would definitely tell any student, whether you join the military or not, set yourself some goals out there, but make them realistic. Make them realistic and achievable. Don't put them so far out there that, hey, when you fall, you don't want to get up. But if you do fall, brush yourself off, get up, and keep going. You will make it. The military or not, you will make it.
Wow, yeah, thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful advice.
I
Anita?
just have two things I would like to share. One, young people, take advantage of all the different opportunities. The military is a floodgate of opportunities. And just like Wesley said, even if you don't decide to join the military, take advantage of all the educational opportunities that are available today. There are things now that did not exist 10, 20 years ago. You know, the internet has a pretty much an open gate of everything you even imagine. So take advantage of the educational opportunities and push yourself, set goals, just as Mr. Wesley said. That's great. But secondly, don't be afraid. I think my biggest problem as a young person was always scared to take that next step. Always scared to try something different. Do not be afraid. I mean, failure is a part of life, but like Mr. Wesley said, don't be afraid to fall and pick yourself back up and dust yourself off. I think he gave some great advice, and I just want to piggyback on that. Stay out of trouble, do your best in school, and just succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank the both of you so much. This has been an amazing session. I think this was the perfect way to wrap up the three-part series on choosing your options after high school. Thank you so much for your insight, your words, and really to the both of you, thank you for your service to our country. And this concludes this segment of Dr. B's Thursday Thought.